sloppy intro.
Hi there, welcome to New to Hill Country. We're here today with Brittany Rodriguez. She's going to be talking about some skincare and then a lot of other cool stuff. So before we get rolling, just as usual, we want to give a little shout out to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is that gorilla up at the top there, SBG Texas. That's our gym. Come on down. We're in the Courtyard Plaza shopping area. We're kind of close to Big Lots, and most people know it better as being close to Dirt Cheap. So yeah, we're right now. Everybody knows Dirt Cheap. But yeah, we've got jiu-jitsu, we've got yoga, we've got a ever-growing kids program, and it's doing really well. Really well attended. So we're really enjoying that. And then because we're working hard in the gym, we need to stay hydrated. Best way to stay hydrated is right up there as well. LMNT, electrolyte mix. It's a miraculous creation in a lot of ways. I'm fully addicted to it. I drink several of them a day to stay hydrated, and I feel like I could drink twice or 3 times as much water and not get the same impact. So it really makes a big difference. And a lot of times we come home from working out.
Nowadays I drink it like every night. That's a go-to kind of drinks for me. No alcohol, just the element tea.
Yeah, and it
feels like margarita.
Yeah, it kind of tastes like a cocktail. Like even the citrus one was made to taste basically like not margarita, but is it margarita?
Yeah.
Oh, margarita. Yeah. And a lot of times we come home and you're like oh, I feel kind of down.
Right.
And it's like it's just electrolyte depletion at the end of the day. Drink a little bit of that and we feel better. So. But anyways, enough about the sponsors. Let's get talking to Brittany. So welcome to the show, Brittany.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Brittany, tell us about your relationship with Hill Country. Like, are you from here, around here?
So I grew up in a small town called Giddings. It's about an hour and a half northeast of here. So it's not technically in Hill Country, but I grew up. We had a deer lease in the Hill Country. My grandparents lived in Dripping Springs, which is right up the road, and that's where my mom was from. So spent a lot of time in the area. I moved to San Antonio in 2008 to go to college, and then we moved to New Braunfels in 2017. So I've been in the area for a while.
Cool.
How do you like it?
Love it. We plan on staying forever. When we bought our house, our realtor was like, most first-time home buyers are in their house for about 7 years, so kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And we're like, no, this is our forever home.
Oh, nice.
We don't want to ever move. So we love it. We live really close to the Guadalupe, so we can go swimming, and there's just so much to do here. So
the rivers almost always come up whenever I ask someone.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Nacoma's only about a mile from us, so we can walk down there if we really want to.
The rivers are what sold me and Rob on moving our families here, and I can't really say that it feels like a mistake.
I mean, every time we go out to the river, I always get reminded, it's like, oh, this is why we moved here. Like, you forget, in day-to-day, activities, and then it's like, oh, right, like, this is why we're here.
But there's so much to do. I mean, you could do wineries up in Fredericksburg. Have you ever been up towards Fredericksburg?
Not yet.
There's Enchanted Rock. It's this giant dome of marble. That's amazing. It's about 3/4 of a mile up, but that's a really awesome hike. There's just so much to do. San Antonio has all kinds of stuff. You guys were talking about Schlitterbahn earlier.
Right.
Schlitterbahn's awesome. But yeah, with just a short drive any direction, you can find so many things to do.
It seems like every time I talk to people, like, I've been to this and that, and it's like so many cool places, but only like an hour away, like maximum 2 hours away, and just like we have a list of places that we must go to. We haven't gotten around to it.
We're kind of admittedly slaves to the grind right now, just starting a business, and just getting all that moving and rolling has been its own kind of challenge. And then I teach so many classes that unfortunately, usually Saturday, Sunday, I'm kind of like, can we just lay down for a while?
But the good thing is, like, the river is not far, so you can actually go and feel like you're outing, still not having to, do so much, like.
And even if you just do for like an hour, it's
refreshing.
I don't know if I'm espousing an unpopular opinion, but to me, winter is extremely mild here, to the point that I feel like most of these places that people tell me about, I could still go to them.
that's true.
Like,
Absolutely.
we definitely be hitting them in October and November. When we arrived in October, was like
It's still
100
pretty hot.
degrees,
Right.
and
Still
it was
Because
like,
we don't usually get our first cold front until about Halloween. So
right.
beginning of November and October. So.
And even that, I think you're someone who grew up here,
Yeah.
so what you call like a cold front or a
It's
cool
technically
front,
cool because it's
Yeah.
usually like
mild
60s.
front from
Right.
like I'm from Iowa, she's from Korea, like
Yeah.
we're used to snow on the ground at least
Right.
2-3 months out of the year, if not more.
Oh my goodness.
You know?
Not last year. I guess in maybe it was, I don't remember. It was 2017 or 2018. We had our first real snow here.
Oh, wow.
Well, since we've been here. And we built a snowman.
Sure,
and it was
sure,
only
yeah.
like maybe half an inch of snow. But
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
so
yeah.
exciting because
Yeah.
I've never seen that much snow in Texas. I've always lived in Texas, but I mean, Colorado, you can find in Colorado, but I had never seen that much snow here. So I was so excited.
I personally can't wait until I am excited to see snow.
Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
like I'm definitely
It was
Yeah.
awesome.
I've had enough snow
Yeah,
in my life.
we're okay without it. We've
Yeah.
been happy with Texas
Oh, yeah.
winter.
Yes.
Texas winter is
It's definitely a
fantastic.
perk.
Go swimming in the Comal in the winter. That's fantastic. Like,
It probably is warmer once
it's
you get
warmer
in the
than
water.
the air. Yeah.
I
Yeah, you
didn't
get
think
real
about
cold
that.
when you
I've
get
never
out,
done
but
that.
it's warm when you're in.
Yeah.
It feels great. Like, yeah.
It's something I haven't done yet.
Oh, it's a thing. It's definitely not like it's so funny too because I'm gonna tease Rob a little bit. Rob Wolf, our celebrity coach here. I was teasing him all winter. I was like, "You gotta come swimming with us out in the river." And he's all like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't like cold." He doesn't like
Yeah.
cold that much. And he's like, "I don't really want to get in cold water. That's not my thing." Kind of. And I was like, "It's not cold though. It's
Yeah.
like 70 degrees.
It's
Like
probably-
it's like
Yeah.
yeah. No,
You
it's
think it's gonna be cold because in the summer you jump in and it takes your breath away, but I didn't think about it being like 40 degrees, probably cooler or warmer.
it's very pleasant. Like it's a
Yeah.
fun time. Like, but cool. Did you ever leave the area and live anywhere else for a little while, or
Nope.
what about travel wise?
We've traveled a little. I've never traveled out of the U.S. Well, that's not true. I've been to the Caribbean once, but I've been to like New York and mostly up the middle of the U.S. We went Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, all of that kind of stuff. We have family in Arkansas, so we went up that way. Tennessee, that kind of stuff. We went to like St. Louis to see the Big Arch. So some of the landmark stuff we've seen, but never really. The East Coast is mostly New York that I've been to. I've never really been to the West Coast. but
I've
it's
been
on
in
my
New York
list.
City, so
I loved it. I know a lot of people do. It's very busy, and I thought I would hate it, but it was so fun. Like there's always something to. The people watching is the best because it's totally different from the environment we're in. But I loved it. I would totally go back to New York. And the food was amazing. The food was amazing.
gotta show up there at some point.
Yeah.
I was in New York City for a day and a half for work, and
She interpreted at the UN. which is
yeah,
very
so
awesome.
I was like all exciting, and then I landed there at night, went to the hotel, and then as soon as I got out, went to the UN office, worked all day. As soon as I was done, had dinner, and then went straight to the airport. So every time I hear about New York, I feel a bit of a bitterness.
Yeah.
Like I have been there,
And
but
there's-
it's like
There's so much to see. Joseph and I went, and actually that's where he proposed, was in New York. But
nice.
we spent, I think, 7 or 8 days there, and I still feel like I didn't. Like
I see.
there's just
Explore
so
everything,
much, and I
yeah.
know like our history as America is pretty new, but there's still a lot. Like Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty, and all of that was really cool to see. You can find if your immigrants came over or your ancestors came over that way, you can find their names in the books and stuff.
Oh, wow,
so
cool.
that was really neat.
I'm gonna wheel back just because Kaylee, as we were talking before we started recording the long form,
right.
tends to make things very
I
succinct.
am very.
There's a funnier
person.
part to her story, I think,
That's
that she
true.
left out. So
as you were talking about food, that's like the biggest kind of regret that I had, because like I was there with the Korean delegation, you know, we were attending the UN conference there, and then they've been there for kind of a few days, so and then it's kind of middle-aged, you know, parliamentarians who after a couple of days like they miss Korean food,
Right.
so I just joined them at the end.
days,
Yeah.
2 days.
I know, and then they took everybody to us, including to the Korean restaurant.
Yeah.
So I just came from Korea, and I'm in New York, and I'm eating like Korean food. It's like, yay!
Eating
Yeah.
substandard
Yeah.
That's so
Korean
funny.
food
Right,
for
I
20
know.
a plate, basically.
So, yeah,
like,
that was definitely a kind of ouch moment for me.
Yeah.
Well, a little quick point there. Like I found that when Americans travel, like a lot of people get like really like, I'll never have a McDonald's while I'm traveling. There's two types. There's like I'll never have a McDonald's when I'm traveling. Like only Americans do that type of attitude. And there's people that like rush to McDonald's right away. You know, like just my point being is I've lived in a fairly scattered different places, and I've found that most groups of people in different parts of the world, when they go somewhere else, pretty much look for their own food right away. Like maybe even faster sometimes than Americans do. So like I find Americans or even Canadians or something like that, North Americans, to be and generally to be more adventurous food wise than like a lot of my Korean students over the years. Like going to the States, it's like, what do you pack? And it's like a giant box of kimchi and ramen noodles and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I used to just, and the same when I had students in Japan and stuff, same thing. I'd come back, I'd be like, they've been to the States for like some study thing. It's like, what'd you eat while you're there? It's like, oh, nothing. Yeah. I didn't try anything. Oh it's like, not one thing? You didn't try just even one place? And it's like, oh no, it's too salty. And it's like, but you don't know that because you didn't go and try it. Like, and it's like, which is funny too. They always say it's super salty, but East Asia has very salty food. It's different just kind of salt. It's a different salt, different texture, different taste palette. Like that's all it is. And anyways, that's just a fun little inclusion there. But but tell us a little bit more about skincare, and a lot of this I'm going to have to defer to the better half on this, because we were joking about this beforehand. Just like I don't have I'm going to get my little bit in. So I don't know much about skincare. I'm not saying it's bogus. Like I just don't know much about it. I'm a little too, I guess. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I guess there's a certain level of like, dudes don't do that sort of thing that's deep inside me. I do know from doing a lot of jiu-jitsu that there's definitely a value to it. Like as you rub on the mats and stuff like that, it can be pretty like hellacial on your skin and stuff. And I should probably be better about a lot of that stuff. I do a little bit for my face. She convinced me, my very Korean wife in that way, told me that like 10 years ago, like you need to take care of your skin basically. I was like, oh, okay. But fun story. One of my good Korean friends, Miles, he was my student, and then when I moved up to Seoul, he came up to be my roommate. He stayed with me as a roommate in that whole summer. And fun thing about Korean dudes is that in general, they're pretty unshy about skincare. They're really metrosexual, like yes. Very like Japanese guys too, to a certain extent as well. Like there's ways that wouldn't actually quite make sense. Our American classification of that, they would defy that in several different ways. But like skincare wise, like Miles was just so all about skincare, man. Every night it was when he got it. And he was always just like, and it was so funny to me because like he would be getting ready for bed or something. He'd come up. I had like a little loft. He'd kind of come up the stairs, and we'd usually have conversations, and then he'd be like, don't you really like worry about your skin though? You know, like, and he would come in like he's really cool that way, and just he really means it. It's super. It's coming from this like extremely sincere place of like, but Mike, like your skin's gonna get so hard and flaky and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, that's not a thing for me, Miles. Like, and he's like, but so anyways, without further ado, please take it away.
Well, and I just recently got into more of like the skincare for aging sort of stuff, but so as I got into like the paleo eating and I started lifting and I was doing better with my health that way, I started learning about ingredients in skincare. And so many of the ingredients that are banned in countries like the EU and Canada are still allowed in America. So I started finding companies that were making skincare and skincare products that were a little cleaner and safer. So one of the ones I personally work for is Beauty Counter, but basically they've compiled a list of over 1,800 ingredients that they do not put in any of their stuff. So they've got makeup, skincare, body wash and shampoo, conditioner, that sort of stuff. And so they're actually not just making better skincare, but they're also advocating on the national level. So they have a lot of people who are working in DC trying to get more regulation in that department, because there's so much that's allowed, so many chemicals that are allowed that are not safe, that are known to be hormone disruptors, which if you look at like the fertility rates of our country now, and like girls starting their period as young as like 8, that stuff is kind of correlated with that. So a lot of the stuff that we put on our skin, whether it's just lotion or body wash or whatever, it can have ingredients that aren't as safe. So once I started learning about that, I kind of went down this like rabbit hole, and it just kind of spiraled from there. But my husband's the same way, and I've gotten him into even using, like, he uses the shave brush, and so he's gotten to where he uses the beauty counter. It's called Counterman, but he uses their products for that. So that was something that even when I got pregnant, I was reading like there have been over 200 chemicals found in the cord blood of babies. So we know our skin absorbs these ingredients and these chemicals, and then it goes into our blood system, and then it circulates. So we know that that can affect us as well as our children. So that's where I really got more intense about it, and totally like cleared out everything we were using and made sure everything we use now is okay and safe. So probably the number one helper for that, I use this website, it's the Environmental Working Group, or the EWG, but they have compiled a database of quite a few products. There's still millions of products out there, but you can download their app and scan your product, and it may not be on there. If it is, it'll give you a rating as to how safe it is. So they rate from 0 to 10, 10 being the most unsafe, and they'll tell you which ingredients are okay, which ones aren't as safe, and why it's not as safe. So they'll tell you like if it is a hormone disruptor or carcinogen or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of a long-winded version of it, but it goes more.
Right.
It goes so much further into not just what you're using for the reason you're using it, but what's inside of it. So as it stands right now, there's no regulation. There's a lot of what we call greenwashing out there, where a company like the one I see all the time is this hand soap company, and I'm blanking on the name, but
are they owned by Procter and Gamble?
Probably.
They're usually, they own everything, but yeah.
Probably. Everyone is using it because it says it's natural and non-toxic. Well, there's no regulation on those terms, so anyone can say natural, clean, non-toxic, stuff like that, and still have these ingredients that are not good for you. So
marketing.
I know, it's crazy. If you go through like our HEB is our local grocery store, I've only found a handful of products that I can actually buy there without having to worry about it. There's one called Everyone, or EO. I've switched out all of our hand soap to that. There's another, Dr. Bonner's, are y'all familiar? They have cast iron soap.
Okay. Oh yeah. We used to call them Peppermint Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another really good one. But otherwise, it's kind of hard to find stuff that's affordable and clean. So that's why I like the EWG. They also have like blog posts about certain things. Like over the summer, they'll put out their series on sunscreen, because there's a lot of chemicals in sunscreen. And actually, one of the things Beauty Counter helped recently was pass legislation for, I think it was Hawaii and Florida, banning the spray sunscreen, because the propellant that is in that was killing coral reefs throughout the seas. So they have banned those in certain areas, but they also talk about like oxybenzone is one of the main ingredients. They aren't entirely sure what it does because it hasn't really been tested that far. So a lot of stuff gets passed through. So mainly not really passed through because there hasn't been any real legislation change since the 1930s on skincare. So the last time something was changed was because of mascara made this woman blind in the 1930s. That was the last time they really did anything with skincare. So there's a lot of work to do. But our main thing is advocacy and education. So the more you know, the better you can do for yourself. And there's tons of, Hello Bello is probably the most better known one. They're at Walmart by Kristen Bell. She's an actress.
Oh, I have heard about
Her
it.
and her husband, Jack Shepherd.
They sell like diapers and stuff.
Yeah, and so they have kind of taken the lead. Their stuff is super affordable at Walmart, but it's starting to happen.
Hello Bello.
Hello Bello.
Okay.
Even Herbal Essence, they came out with a line that was EWG verified.
Okay.
But there's still a lot of work to do because they'll come out with that kind of stuff while they're still selling the stuff that isn't super safe. So, a lot of work to be done. But the main thing is empowering yourself to know ingredients to look for.
So speaking of education, like let's say I didn't know any of that until today, and now actually I want to change this product that I want to buy. How would you go about it? Like what to look for in a store?
Some of the main ingredients I would cut like today, like PEGs, parabens, and they can be an umbrella for things under them. So if you kind of research, they can go by different names. Phthalates are what makes fragrance, like perfume, like stay on your skin, and the phthalates are what are a problem there. A lot of times fragrance, there's a loophole in the FDA's like okaying them. They don't have to, because of trade secret laws, they don't have to list every ingredient they're using for fragrance. They can just say fragrance and parfum. So a lot of times there's really nasty chemicals hidden in that. So we stay away from a lot of fragrance unless it's like essential oil or something like that. And there are companies, there's one, I think out of Austin maybe, called Fleur, PHLUR, that they are making perfume and cologne that's a little safer. And there's another one, I think it's called Henry Rose and it's an actress and I'm losing her name, but there are some. That's off topic. But so PEGs, parabens, if you go to actually Beauty Counter's website, they have a list of most of the common ingredients that are dangerous and why they're not super safe to use. But the EWG is a really awesome place to start because you can scan your items, and if like the item you're using isn't in their database, you can search the ingredients on their, I think you have to go to their webpage for that. The app, I have trouble sometimes searching ingredients, but if you search the ingredient, it'll tell you on a scale of 1 to 10 how safe it is, or 0 to 10. And that's where I would start, just seeing.
Is there any place that I can go to get a list of recommended products, like health?
A lot of times they will feature brands on the EWG. I personally, like, we use a lot of the Beauty Counter products, but there's a company called Primally Pure that's really good, and it's a woman-run business. She's a mom. Her husband's a rancher in, like, I want to say Idaho. It's somewhere in that area, but if you start following, like, I follow a lot of people on Instagram, and that's how I learn about more and more. There's another one, I think it's, I'm going to say the name wrong, so I'm not going to say it, but there's a lot I've been finding mostly on Instagram. So once you find a company, then I go and I look through all of their ingredients. But if you look for B corporations, so a B corporation is, it basically, to become a B corporation, you have to have transparency, and you have to show that your company is bettering the environment, your employees, and the people who purchase stuff from you. So if you're, and the more I've learned about it, the more I see it everywhere. So, which is awesome, because it's a collective group of companies trying to do better. So if you go to their website, you can search even in your area. Like if you pull up Texas, it'll show you all the Texan companies that are B corporations. Not that they're all skincare necessarily, because there's some like wineries that are on there and all sorts of stuff. But you can put in if you want skincare, if you want it from a certain area, and that's helped a lot because then you can find like clothing, all kinds of stuff. And Beauty Counter is a B corporation. That's how I initially learned about it, and their website's really cool because you can find anything you need.
I'll definitely check that out.
All kinds of stuff.
Address is Beauty Counter?
Beautycounter.com.
Is there a physical location, or is it all?
They actually do have some retail stores. New York and Denver, I know for sure. I can't remember if they've opened any since those. So they're trying to. We did, back when I first joined, we had a little pop-up in Target where Target was carrying some of their stuff, but that was kind of short run. They're currently partnering with Sephora, so you can find some of their stuff at Sephora for the summer. but otherwise it's mostly online, through their website. So.
You say you work there, what do you do?
I'm considered a consultant, so if it's purchased online, it would go through like my link, and that's how I would get paid. But our main thing, we like host socials, and so I can go around, like if you wanted to host a social with your family and friends, and then we just educate, kind of like we're doing today, on the ingredients to look out for, why you should look out for them, and then how you can find products that work for you. And because I know skincare isn't something that we usually, and maybe not all, but I would say the majority of people I know, at least at my age, they're not putting more money into skincare.
Right,
so if you're needing something affordable, then that's where I can give you some recommendations for other brands that I like or have used in the past. So but Beauty Counter is kind of leading the way because they have created skincare that actually works. They are utilizing a lot of Korean values, and they did a lot of research and brought in a lot of consultants from other countries to figure out like what worked the best. So our Counter Time line is our anti-aging line, and they said they have like an essence that helps like moisturize, and a lot of that technology that came for that line came from Korea. So it's been really interesting to learn.
Korean,
It was funny that you're talking about that because their skin always, they look amazing, and they age very well. So
they do put in a lot of effort,
and
it's almost like the whole kind of regimen, like you do from
it's
not just like moisturizer.
It's like the cleanser and the prep step and the
Mhm.
treat, which is like the serum,
exfoliate,
and then you
yeah.
moisturize.
Right.
Well, and like is it called gua sha, where they do the stones to like
I've heard
help
about
the collagen
it.
production and stuff.
Right.
I haven't gotten into that yet, but I really want to. They have like the stone roller that will help with like fine lines and stuff. So it's really, for me, it's become more self-care because that's my time in the evening. My husband's in bed and my son's in bed, and it's just quiet, and I can like go through I think it's a 5-step regimen.
Right.
That I can just be silent and go through it.
It's almost like meditative.
Yes. It's really nice.
It's definitely something that Korea's doing really well. And
Yes. Yeah.
Should tell about your sister's clinic.
All right, so my sister is a doctor who is really doing a lot of practice around wellness. So not just like physical, but also mental, and then the skin inside out. So she does like health and the food, diet. But she does a lot of kind of combine that with skincare, because skin is one factor or one thing that shows how healthy you are. It does actually. You wear, how healthy you are. Right. Like if you're unhealthy, you can see it from the skin, and she can kind of help you with that. So that's pretty cool. Like she actually opened a clinic in a resort, like N2HC resort in Busan, like kind of beach area. So she's kind of targeting like people who are in vacation but want to kind of not just like spend a time at the beach and play, but more like a real kind of like investment in you, like physically, mentally, and all that. So it's pretty cool.
That was really awesome.
We've been demo patients.
We've
I've been demo patients for a ton of stuff.
And we would volunteer. It's like, you want to try it? And like,
she's like, I need to practice this. I'm like,
cool.
That's awesome.
We got a new machine. Like, do you want to try it? It's like, she does like oxygen therapy and all that, and blood therapy. So it's really cool.
There's actually that cool commercial that we.
We
got to stay in the penthouse at the Hilton.
Right.
That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We recorded something for her clinic and the resorts, but it was definitely. I like how, and I see a lot of people, especially here, like we're really health conscious, and I see a big trend kind of moving towards that in so many different ways.
Yeah. Well, and you really have to. I mean, so much of like you think you're doing good for your family because you're buying products that say they're natural and they're green and they're clean, so you think you're doing okay, and it takes like the whole thing that I was having some like health issues that I couldn't figure out, and I was going to just a normal doctor, and they're like, oh, you're just getting older. I was like 24 at the time. Like,
oh wow.
I'm not that old.
You've reached a venerable old age, so there's nothing much that science can do. I'm sorry, the book is closed.
So
good day, ma'am.
It's really up to you to advocate for yourself. Like if you know something's not right. So then as I started digging, it just kind of all unfolds. But my goal, and I'm a nurse, and so my whole profession is like teaching basically. I mean, not all teaching, but we are taught to be advocates and to educate for better and stuff like that. And so that's really kind of what speared me into this. Was I found all this information and I feel like you can't not share it. And so I immediately went to my mom and my mother-in-law and was like, look at this, like, did you know this is in your products? And you don't know what you don't know. So just trying to learn as much as I can. And I started an Instagram account, which I had a baby, so that kind of fell to the wayside, but it's called Cleaner Living with Brittany. And I'm going to start it back up now that I have some
now you're promoting it, so
back.
you have to do it.
Where I was educating like certain ingredients and why we shouldn't use them. So I'm going to do kind of a series on each ingredient and why we shouldn't use them, and what they're found in. Because a lot of stuff, like toluene is an ingredient found in fingernail polish. And so there's different brands out there that are getting where they have, there's I think 10, I might be saying that wrong, ingredients that are a little questionable. So there's certain companies that are putting out safer products that you can still enjoy your pedicure, just bring the polish with you or whatever. So it's just a matter of learning, and there's a lot out there that I didn't know, but that I do know now. So
yeah, but I mean, speaking of what your doctor said, it was like that was kind of my sister's biggest kind of struggle, is like all modern medicine is about like after, like after
kind
something
of just
happens.
a band-aid, like we'll take this to fix this ailment instead
very
of
kind of
finding
short term and kind of reactive than proactive, and that's why I should focus on like prevention, and everything you're doing is like prevent before you have cancer, before you have a problem,
which you would think, I mean, if you look at our numbers of cancer and all these other diseases in the US, how much money we'd save if we didn't let people get to that point. It's a, I mean, I don't want to say billion because I might be saying that wrong, but it's a massive, massive money maker for, which sounds really bad, but it is on these people like who are benefiting basically from us being sick. So
and we can say that's the same thing about food, which we can talk about like days,
because I love food. And we are like, I would say like the 80-20 paleo couple, my husband and I, who we eat we have some off meals, but for the most part we're paleo. But even that, you can still overeat paleo. So it's just finding what works for you. And we're always tinkering and trying out, like I just started keto, so
tell us a little more about that. Like, how did you start it? How did you learn about it?
Well, I've done keto in the past, and I always just kind of fizzle out. I joined the Healthy Rebellion, Rebels Healthy Rebellion, and someone said, "Hey, would y'all like to get a group together to do keto?" Because we were all saying the same thing. We always peter out about 30 days in or something, and so we kind of formed our group. And then I took my fasting blood glucose, which was 103, which is technically in the pre-diabetic range. And so knowing that I have a really strong history, my family history for diabetes and like neurodegenerative stuff, like my grandma had Parkinson's and dementia and Alzheimer's and all of that. So my grandpa had heart disease, and my other grandpa died of cancer. So knowing I have a really strong family history for all of that, seeing that 103 and I'm only 30, I was kind of like, ooh, like I've been eating pretty healthy, but obviously maybe I'm eating too many carbs or whatever. So I got into that little group. We're like an accountability group, but there's 8 of us total, and we're on day 3 of keto.
Nice.
And actually this element has been saving my life, because normally you would be feeling that keto flu, and I've been just chugging as much as I can with the electrolytes, and it's saved me.
It just happens to be our sponsor, but I'll plug that as well.
Like, my head as you're talking about.
Because I did keto. It's been a while since I did keto. I probably slide in and out of keto at this point. I reached all my weight loss goals a long time ago, so it works. You just gotta hang in there. Basically, I would think of it as an intervention more than as like, this is how I'm going to eat for the rest of my life forever. It's like, but then because it's an intervention, just like double down hard on it and be like, 60 days, no cheats, none of that stuff. I'm just going to go all the way through it to really lock in. Because what I felt it did for me was besides the amazing, and she watched it all, like as just the belts just got smaller, smaller. I had this gut that just never went away. I was, you know, like most dudes, I was skinny up top. You know, I had a muscular physique and everything. I was working out 5-6 times a week, but there was just this belly ever growing, and I didn't nip it until I like basically first I cut sugar and I was like, oh, that works really well. I was like, and I was like, so maybe there's more to this carb stuff. I had heard of Rob Wolf because he's friends with John Frankel, my jiu-jitsu coach, and he was like, well, Rob would say this, like, and so then I started dabbling in keto in very ugly ways, just kind of YouTube research ways, but I got tons of success off of that, and then I met Rob in Costa Rica, and just a few things that he said to me there helped me dial things in even further, but I didn't know you were on Healthy Rebellion.
I just joined like 2 weeks ago.
I post all kinds of weird things on there, but
people who don't know what.
The Healthy Rebellion was started by Rob Wolf and his wife Nikki Violetti. So it's an opt-in social media group with its own. It goes off a Mighty Networks app, and it's just all people interested in wellness and health and better eating. It's paleo, keto. There's a lot of exercise stuff on there. It's what's awesome about the Healthy Rebellion and what I use it for is just you got a health question and you just throw it up there, and it's not like throwing something out on Facebook. And I will denigrate Facebook here or whatever. It's just like you throw something out on Facebook and there's like someone's like, dude, whatever. Like you get all this like negativity back. Like the Healthy Rebellion, it's like you're gonna get all these positive responses, and in particular, like there's a lot of people with like PhDs on there and stuff like that.
Very smart.
Who will throw back in like I asked about probiotics like fairly recently. I was like, I seem to just do so much better on this, but why is that? I don't understand the why of it. And I got some just great responses from people. And then I happen to know Rob Wolf personally, so then he didn't answer on there, but he ran into me later and he's like, oh, I say, hey, about that. And he kind of talked about it more and stuff. But Rob will get on there and answer all kinds of questions and stuff. And he's always like fantastic. And, but I changed around a lot of stuff in my life just off of the Healthy Rebellion. One of the biggest things I got onto was the sauna stuff that I'm doing.
Red light therapy.
I figured out how to get like a pretty cheap sauna going in my own house, and then someone started talking about red light therapy, and I was like, oh, tell me more. So the skincare stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, tell me more. Like red light's been like kind of changing my whole like outlook on that, and so I mean, there's just I've come on to a lot of really great things through that. I think the next thing that people are going to convince me to do is that chili pad or whatever, the cool blanket. Like,
and I think, does it go on your mattress or something?
Something like that. I haven't taken the leap on it yet, but it's probably perfect for me because I'm just like a ball of fire to lay next to. Like in the winter, she likes me because I'm just like just a heating stone kind of. In summer, it's like stay away. That way we don't have to crank the AC up. I can get out of my molten lava state, which is my resting metabolic state or something. So but
so are you doing keto with the Healthy Rebellion group?
There's 8 of us that are doing it together.
Are you guys on like Rob's keto masterclass thing?
I have done that, and that kind of changed because originally, I mean, everybody talks about like fat, but I lift weights, and so I needed more protein, so I was trying to figure out how to make that work. And I wasn't losing, I mean, I was losing weight, but not like you see other people losing weight, because I was eating too much. So I did the keto masterclass, and then he talks about the chronometer app, and so then I did the Keto Gains macro calculator, and they calculate like how many, if you want to lose this much weight, you need to do this many calories, this much is protein, fat, and so, and you can tinker your protein on that. So if you go a little bit up in your protein, then they'll compensate for the fat that needs to come out. So I've been doing that, and I'm hoping, I mean, I have high hopes. I know it is at least good for my metabolic side of it. So, and I mean, my grandma was the biggest sugar addict I've ever seen. And so me and my mom and my sister always laugh and say it's genetic, and it kind of is. I mean, it's been, I couldn't ever go to my grandma's house and not eat ice cream. So it's definitely something we just have to get better at. So,
I'll give you my take on sugar real quick. So, and this has helped me look at sugar in a different way. Because there's sugar in my diet. It's in there. It's impossible. It's fruit, whatever. But like, just I respect sugar as what it is. It's a drug.
Right.
I don't think of it as food. I do not think of it as like, oh, I'm getting these calories that are needed to power my body or something. It's purely a drug.
Right.
It's something that you eat it to elevate mood. And like, when you think of it that way, I feel like it really changes your consumption habits right away. You're not like, you don't think of it as like, oh, I'm consuming X amount of food. It's like, this is like, I wouldn't think of like when I go to drink, if I go to drink alcohol, I never think of it as like, and now I'm hydrating. You know, it's like, it's not. It's totally not that. This is, so every last bit of it that you're eating, then you're considering it as it actually is. It's hitting your liver and it's turning into fat, period. So like, if you're accepting that at the onset, I feel like a lot of people want to believe something else on that, you know, and then I do feel like there's a pretty big difference between the way my body at least processes fructose, like from fruit, and like sucrose, like pure, like that table sugar. There's a huge difference in the way my body seems totally fine. I've ketoed a lot of weight away, and I feel like I got my body to that point where it burns everything really efficiently. If I just find I don't really even like candies and ice creams and stuff like that. Mostly I find them kind of like, they just feel, it feels like too much, and I'm happy to keep myself in that place. Like, just calling out to everyone there, like.
I definitely noticed, like, the more sugar stuff I eat, the more craving I have. Like, it tastes better. It tastes different. And then, like, you stay away from it, and then you just, like, lose that.
But that's also, I mean, they make them so that you want to eat more.
Right, exactly.
And that's the whole thing with, like, processed food. They specifically, it is scientifically engineered to taste a certain way so that, have you read the book, The Dorito Effect?
I've heard about it.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. That was another book I read. But they talk about how the reason MSG exists is because they couldn't get cows to eat grain. They wanted to eat grass. And so they put MSG on the cow's food to make the cows fat, basically.
Oh, wow.
And so now we have MSG in our food, which is making us fat. And so the hyperpalatability stuff is real.
It's really well understood, and that's a really interesting point. And this was in Rob appeared in this, what was it called? I can't remember who made it, but it's called like To the Perfect Human Diet documentary. And one of the points they make in that is basically the macro proportions that Americans in particular eat, North Americans, and I feel like that's growing everywhere, are relatively identical to feedlot, you know, like how you would make a cow fat. So like, you ramp up all this stuff to like these proportions, and like cows get fat automatically, and it's like, and then you look at the proportions, the general proportions and what people are eating, and it's almost identical to that. Like,
and I know, like, in his keto gains or his keto masterclass, he talks about satiety, and like, if you're getting that hyperpalatable food, it like switches off your satiety signal, so you just keep eating more. And I know that's, for me, something I struggle with, is like portion size, and I don't know where this comes from, but I can remember as a kid thinking, I don't think that's enough, I'm not gonna feel full, like, because weight is something I've struggled with since the 3rd grade, and so I've done all of this research, and it's a hard cycle to break. But I know in the past keto worked really well for me.
Just go hard in the paint, Brittany. That's what you gotta do. You gotta go hard in the paint.
And I've gotten down now to like pre-pregnancy weight where I was before I got pregnant. I lost about 30 pounds.
Awesome.
So I've got another 35 though.
That's awesome.
I'm like, I'm gonna do it.
You'll get there.
I like what Rob says in his book, Wired to Eat. Just like it's your brain. It's not your fault. It's not. People try to use willpower to do that. It's like, oh, I'm not strong enough. You know, it's like, why did I do that? You know, it's like, it's not like that. You know,
you have to literally rewire.
Right.
Yeah, and that Wired to Eat book, I love all of Rob's books, but that one is one I read more over. Like, I've read more than once because it just like speaks to me.
Like,
it's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
Sure.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
But so it all comes back around to, like, you have to do your own research and advocate for yourself, because there's no one else who's going to do it for you, especially not in, at least not now. We're hoping soon that will change as far as the skincare stuff goes, that we can have that really was what kind of blew me away, was other countries have banned these ingredients knowing they're unsafe and knowing that they're causing cancer and hormone issues, and it still is allowed here. So that was
Love America, but I am seeing that like
Right.
America's a very interesting place in terms of there's a really dramatic level of corruption in that regard with regards to that.
Yes, because if you like you were saying, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson just recently I think pulled like their baby powder, which my mom used baby powder on me, but there's so many things like that. A big one recently, I say recently, it's probably been a couple of years now, was Claire's had to pull a lot of their kids' makeup because it had been contaminated with asbestos, because none of that was being tested. There's no testing happening, and so like Beauty Counter specifically, they test all of their stuff 3 times before it gets sent out, and so at any point, and it's independently tested, it's not tested by Beauty Counter themselves, because they want that transparency. So it's tested 3 times before it goes out, and if anything ever comes back contaminated, because it's not that they are intentionally putting asbestos into your products or say like heavy metals, it's a lot of these ingredients like mica and stuff like that we're using can be contaminated. So the main contaminants are like heavy metals, so found in like your lipsticks and your eyeshadows and your blushes and stuff like that, powders. So that's something else to consider. I didn't even think about that, but it's contamination. So but yeah, those big companies like that who they have enough money to basically stifle all of that and to lobby. So Beauty Counter's getting more lobbyists, so we're working really hard to.
It goes both ways, to
fight against that. And actually, they just came out, they had a big hearing very recently. Greg Renfro is our CEO, and she was on a panel with the EWG CEO and several other people. And as they're testifying why these ingredients aren't safe, if you watch the faces of like the Congress members, this one man was like, "So I should probably tell my wife to throw all her perfume away," and they were like, "Yes," because the ingredients in it are probably not safe. If you look at the ingredients, it's probably not safe. So there's change. It's just it takes a while to.
I feel like the most persistent attitude you'll hear as an answer to this, like when you say this kind of stuff, is like, I feel like I see this a lot. Talking about diet with people, sometimes they say, especially older generations, they'll say like, "We used all that stuff when we were young and we're fine." And I'm always like surprised whenever people say that to me. They're usually obese to start with, and I'm like, "Are you fine?" Because I bet 30-40 years ago your dad wasn't as obese as you are. Like, so it's like and I'm usually polite enough not to do that, but I'm just like
thinking
it's like well, we were fine. And it's like, we're really not fine though. Like, look at what's actually going health patterns in the country, and it's like fine is not how I would describe that. And I think it's like, you need a passport. You need to go somewhere else and kind of see what people generally look like in their adult life. And I remember moving to Germany when in 2003 or so, and just being like, and this is just totally like, I got there and I remember looking, and people are just generally so much thinner than in I was from the Midwest, and I was like, oh, I literally just thought white people just get really fat. I just thought white people get really fat. It was a white people thing, kind of like. It's just as white people get older. It's mostly white people in the Midwest, so I just thought it was kind of, that's pretty standard. And then it's like, the more I've traveled, the more I notice when I come back, it's Americans in general, North Americans in general, just it's noticeable. We talk about it. As soon as you're crossing those borders, it's just like a couple sizes increase, and it isn't. It's multi-ethnic, everything across the board.
We always talk about like drinks, the size of the cup. Like when you go to Starbucks. In Korea, we don't have venti size. We have like short. So the biggest is grande.
Because caffeine.
And then you get like frappuccino. It's so much sugar. And the same thing with the the soda or Coke or whatever you call it. Just like the size is like remarkable.
Did you ever watch Parks and Rec? The show Parks and Rec.
I haven't. No, I've only heard good things about it, but
I've probably watched the entire series 4 or 5 times. But one of the episodes, they have this company called Paunch Burger or something, and they come out with like a giant, it's like the size of a small child, and she's trying to get this big giant thing of soda, and so she pours out all the sugar that's in it, and it doesn't care. People are like, "We want our Paunch Burger." But I think that's because so many people are kind of conditioned to see they saw their parents and grandparents live that lifestyle, and I think they think that's what happens, but
But I feel like so many new products have come out since then. They just they're not looking at it reasonably. Like they're like, oh, we all did that. It's like, no, but you didn't actually. Right. Like if you actually go back and you're actually looking at what we were doing, it's very different. Like, you know, like there's like the study of like the testosterone of men at like World War II. It's like, it's absurd. It's something like 5 times higher than the average man today. And you're like, so what accounts for that? Like probably diet, probably stuff with skincare, and like all these various things that like
environmental.
They weren't doing those things. Like, and you thought, oh no, they were doing it. Like, I mean, they're probably doing some other things that were bad, but like these are a lot of modern things that have really only come about in the last 30, 40 years or whatever, and we're not really that clear on what they do. But we're not looking at a particularly healthy, robust species at this point. Like, so. And the more you move countries in other parts of the world more in a Western direction, these diseases, these chronic diseases shoot up all of a sudden. You're like, they didn't get healthier? It's like, nope, they got overweight and malnourished. You're like, overweight and malnourished? Like, how did those two go together? That they shouldn't, you know, that's like it's just it sounds wrong when you say it, but it's extremely common, and especially common in North America. So crazy.
It is crazy.
Get me all excited.
Yeah, I know. We were talking about something that we're so
near and dear to me.
It's what we do. So definitely conversation was like.
That's kind of what we're trying to do, is create a community of people that reinforce that, and you know, like, and that
the same way.
Just be that positive influence for each other, like, because I'm sure you're gonna meet other people who you're like, I'm doing keto, and they're gonna be like, don't do that.
You're gonna give yourself a heart attack. Yeah. Well, and even a few of my friends from high school are now doctors, and I'm just trying to, like, I don't want to insult your education because I'm a nurse, so I don't have your medical degree. But if you look at the number of hours of nutrition that they have, they really have no sense of what is good nutrition. And actually, I was listening to something with Diana Rogers, but she was talking about when she was getting her nutritionist degree, that like the information they're giving nutritionists is so wrong and outdated that it's not even, I mean, you really can't trust. You have to do your own research, because so much of what's being given to us even is still wrong just because it's outdated.
That's true.
So that's kind of crazy, but I would empower you to advocate for yourself.
I really like that, actually. Like, you need to go put yourself out there and actually seek the right information.
And I'm a big believer in, like, I will fire a doctor if I'm telling you I'm feeling these things and you're saying, like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Like, if I don't know. I just think sometimes doctors are conditioned to not listen because they are very set in their ways. And I'm not to say, like, I'm a big believer in Western medicine. I think it saves lives. But at the end of the day, you have to find somebody who's going to work with you and who kind of is on the same page. The first time I ever told a doctor I was going to try out the paleo diet, she laughed in my face. She was like, food has nothing to do with what's wrong with you. Like, that's just crazy. You're going to deprive yourself of all these things. And there was no talk of
Twinkies.
I know, and there was no talk of the nutrients in, like, a vegetable versus Twinkies. Like, it just was really eye-opening. That was early 20s, and I was kind of like, oh, okay. So that's kind of informed my whole way of looking at it. And I'm a school nurse now, so I'm more in the community setting and trying to convince a parent that, have you considered, like, maybe this reaction is from food, or they're like, deer in the headlights, like, they've never heard that from a doctor, they wouldn't even have considered it. So it's just, I don't know, something to, like, for me personally, mine was gluten. I cut out gluten at the end of 2016, and this weird eczema I was having for my entire life just went away and it's come back. So I don't know. I'm very much a fan of doing your research, and I mean, I don't know, I've been through a lot of doctors.
Yeah.
I understand.
Cause the right reason, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of find the right way for your body, and you know, I think that kind of proactiveness and being active.
Right.
You know, it's your body, so
Yes.
who else can you really, can take care of it? So.
Going on the standard American diet just has a very clear result. All you have to do is walk around.
Yes.
Just walk around, you see it.
I mean,
Any
it
part
might
of the
take
country,
you
you'll see it. Like
30 to 40 years to see the end of it, but and my whole motivating factor was seeing my grandparents who were strong and healthy for so long, and then all of a sudden it was like that last 10 years of their life went down so quickly, and like they didn't have any more freedom because they can't really do anything for themselves. And then my grandma getting her dementia and Parkinson's, like that was terrible, seeing her not being able to remember her own daughters. So something I'm still working on my mom with is trying to get her on the low carb train, because I know that if you look at the research, there's keto's being used for so many like brain injuries and that sort of stuff, and it's just really amazing. If you look, that's why I like Rob's work so much, because he talks about the ancestral side of it. Like if you look at what our ancestors ate, they weren't eating these things. So why are we now
only seasonally available anyways.
And they ate, I mean, they didn't eat 97% lean beef or whatever. They ate the whole animal. It's just really interesting. And it all kind of makes sense if you like step back and look at it. So
cool, good job.
So
fun
fun.
talk.
Time flew by so quickly.
I know, I get, my husband's always like, here she goes. Because once I start talking about it, I can't shut up, but I'm just really passionate about it.
I talked to Joe, her husband, and it's like, we're gonna do podcasts. Like, it's like, when she starts talking about her passion,
I know.
She's gonna be very talkative.
I dig it.
I love it,
I dig it.
Pleasant surprise, you know.
Yeah.
Brittany always so quiet.
I know. I'm
Brittany,
very shy.
Just to close out here, let's go back through some of the websites that you plugged so that people get it at the end here.
Beauty Counter is beautycounter.com. It's all one word, Beauty Counter. I'm on Instagram. I have a few different accounts, but the one I'm going to do for the Beauty Counter is called Cleaner Living with Brittany. I'm also, Brittany does paleo-ish, and that's where I post more of my food stuff. But ewg.com is where you can go to look up ingredients, and they have an app you can download to scan products, like if you're in a grocery store and you want to scan it real fast. And then B Corporations, which I can't remember if you just Google B Corporation, you'll find their website that way. But that way you can check out companies that are doing really well in your area.
Cool.
That you can support.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Love doing this